Hello and welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show. My name is Rich Natoli. I am your host of the show, and tonight I'm flying solo without Ed. He's got no voice, and there's not much that he can do on a podcast or live stream without a voice. So he's going to hang out at home, maybe watching or maybe just taking the night off. So, Ed, hope you feel better quick. You got about a week or so 9 days to get better so that we can talk and trade jabs out on the Osprey for the TOG trip coming up. So anyone who has not signed up yet, it is on the Osprey, ospreyfishingnewjersey.com. We're going on a TOG trip on the 20th of December. And as far as I can tell, it looks like there's 14 spots left on the boat. So they only bring 35. So it's a big boat, comfortable boat, great captain and crew, and there's 14 spots left. So if you want to get out there, get on there now, because we know that everybody is going to be signing up very soon, especially with the cancellations that they've had. People are trying to get those trips in. So that's really the only bit of housekeeping that we have. And we have I'm going to bring him on right now. We have Captain Scotty Sevins here. Scotty, good to see you, man.
What's going on, guys?
You and Starla.
Me and Starla tonight.
Yeah.
She's taking Ed's place for the evening.
Yeah. She'll have better commentary.
Yeah.
I could say that because he can't even yell at me. He might text me,
right? You'll be getting a text message.
Yeah, probably. If he's watching, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But everybody, thank you for tuning in. We're rolling into the difficult time of the year for doing podcasts and live streams. So Ed and I are trying to figure out exactly what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. We are going to at least do, we have an episode next week, and we're going to do another one, which probably will not be live, but will be live, put up on the 25th. So on Christmas, just to kind of keep the schedule going. And we haven't decided what we're going to do with New Year's Day or New Year's Day night. So I don't know. It all depends on how hungover y'all are, I guess. So we're going to figure all that stuff out coming up. We're going to jump in and start talking a little bit about the fall/winter run that we have going on. And before we do that, let's just recognize the people that are live and in stream. I have my brother Tom in there. Yeah, he said that he bets that I'm going to be late. We were on time. So nope, he was wrong. James Flynn in there. Ben from Crabbing and Fishing. Participation Trophy Fishing, Nick Devereaux, who's gone on some great TOG. Hopefully he's able to go out on the 20th. I'd love to lose to him again. Last time I fished with him, he crushed me. Great Bay Outfitters. So good to see you, Paul. SH7MI. Let's see as I scroll through here. MR Johnson, Jack West. Scotty, I see you in there.
Yep.
And KB is in there. Good to see you. Anarchy Fishing. Peter is in there. And I might be missing some people. Mark Smith. Good to see you, Mark. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We have going on. Oh, and Ed is in there. So he did hear me saying stuff about him.
Yeah, there he is. What's up, Ed?
Good to see you, Ed. So we've got some stuff to talk about with the striped bass because, man, I remember. Well, there's really two lives to striped bass fishing in New Jersey. There was the pre-decimation of the population where it was just ridiculous all the way, up into the 90s almost. And then it died for a long time, and then it came roaring back. Now we've had some of the best runs in the past 20 years over the past couple of years, but they pushed back. And now I even wonder if we should call it a fall run, because it's going to continue into the winter yet again this year, as it did last year. Just gets a little bit more uncomfortable. What's your thought on that?
So you're absolutely right with that. I think, I remember, so back when I was younger. I think I was in elementary school or middle school or something like that. Election day, we would always have Raw from school. And it was always a day where my dad took my brother and I fishing, right? And bluefish was always the target back then. We would troll ponytails and so forth, just out front of like Ocean City or wherever. And I remember that decimation period, because this was around then. and we would always go out and crush the bluefish, right? And I remember one year we were trolling some diving plugs, and my brother grabbed a rod, and he catches a striper, and I was like, what even is this? I've never seen one of these before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was like my earliest memory of like the striped bass fishing, because like back then, like the fall fishing was like a bluefish based fishing, you
Yeah.
know. Um, Fast forward to like, like even like the mid 20 teens, 2015, all that. We had some good years in there, no doubt about it. But man, these last few years have been something special. They really have been. Um, like you could go out and in one trip catch more fish in one trip than you used to be able to catch all fall long. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Like 50, 60, 80, 100 fish days are not uncommon these days. And it kind of boggles my mind to even say that, but it's really the truth. And um, really, it's almost attainable by anybody, you know.
Yeah.
Um, the fall run, like I remember, back like I said, like mid 20 teens, like fall run, okay, maybe not get started until like November, end of November, mid-November. Like, no, these last few years, big fish are moving through that first week of October. Like, people are hitting 40 and 50 pound fish like beginning of October now, you
Yeah.
know.
That's something.
Like if you start fishing mid-October, you're already late to the party.
Yeah. Yeah. And it used to not be like that. I remember it used to be this time where flounder ends and then there's nothing to do for like months.
Yeah,
The blackfish would pick up, but the seasons weren't like fully opened. So all you really had was blackfish,
yeah.
and there were no striped bass around. And then, but I remember the bluefish bites, and I
Mhm.
remember the first striped bass I ever saw. I caught while fishing on the Point Jetty in Stone Harbor, and I was out there and I was casting, and the guy next to me was really angry because I was bailing fish, bailing
Mhm.
bluefish, which is what I was going for. It's in the middle of the day, but I happened to know that there was a hole in close, and I
Yeah.
kept hitting the hole. And he thought that he was a good caster, so he was trying to hit the hole, and he's coming within like 20 yards, and he thinks he's in the hole, and he's not.
Yeah.
So I kept pulling
The
it. He
spot
started
within
getting
the
angry.
spot.
Yeah, he starts getting angry, and then I start pulling out striped bass. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So I pull it up, and some little kid, I had no idea what it was. Some little tiny kid, I'm talking like elementary school, comes running down the jetty. He's like, it's a striper. It's a striper. I'm like, um, you know, no shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, pretending I knew what it was. He's like, smell
Right.
it. It smells like butter. I'm like, I'm not going to smell it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, he's like, yeah. He's like, where did you catch it? And I showed him. And wouldn't you know, this kid runs back up and he comes back out, and I'm leaving at that point. And the one guy is like now casting in, trying to get the spot. And he's like, can you tell me exactly where it was? So I tell him, and I cast one out. I catch another. The kid nails it every single time. He starts bailing him. The old guy got so angry at him. He tried to kick the fish away from him. He was keeping the fish
Oh,
I caught, and it went down in the rocks. The kid just climbed right down and took it up, took it back up, and
oh.
just started bailing him. Yeah. So that was my first experience with them, but I was fishing for bluefish in the fall,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, that's what it used to be. That I mean, that's what I remember it as. I still have like some old pictures of, back when pictures were actually pictures
Yeah.
of just bluefish slaughters. But um, now you're lucky to even see a gator bluefish.
Yeah. Well,
Like
they're
I
coming
got
back.
a couple of them within the last week or two, and I was like, I think I was more stoked about those big gator blues than like catching 20-pound bass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
So
I had in the intro to this live stream, there's a clip where I'm pulling out, it's near the beginning where I'm pulling up in the kayak a 36-inch bluefish.
yeah.
That day I was catching upper 40-inch striped bass. It was out in
Hmm.
the Raritan Bay, and it was the bluefish that I was so excited
That
about.
you're excited about.
Oh, it's
It's
great.
amazing. It's amazing how fisheries change and the world changes.
Yep.
Like I never like I remember like back when I first seriously started targeting striped bass like during the fall. Um, yeah, I remember like even just catching like one fish or two fish like that could really make your season. But
Yeah.
uh, like nowadays, it's like we've almost been spoiled in a way. I mean, I'm very grateful um, to be able to experience the fall run in the capacity that I have been, especially the last few years, because it's just been nothing short of really incredible fishing, world class. And to add to that, also the inshore tuna game. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like I can't tell you how many I've seen this year, and um, like that's another fishery that is like a real if you have a boat, you don't even need a big boat. It is a very attainable fish for almost anybody, you
And
know.
if you catch one with 400 yards of line in its lip, it might have been yours.
Yeah, it might have been mine from back in October, right? Yeah. Yeah, blue braid. Exactly. Yeah, they spooled my for the people don't know, I got spooled on my VR 125 back in October. Um and yeah, totally gone.
That had to have been in the many hundreds of pounds. I'm guessing what,
Yeah, so
300, 400?
I don't know, but I know the one that I actually hooked and fought. And in fact, I just kind of dropped a video of that on my YouTube for Assault Marsh Sunday that just went live yesterday. But the fish that I hooked and I fought was easy 500 pounds for sure. Like, and I saw a lot of fish that day, and these were some of the biggest ones I saw. Um, like the explosions that you see, and like I have a clip of it on my Instagram. Uh, those they look like splashes, but in person, those splashes were as if somebody was dropping a smart car in the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not over that one. I mean, in fact, I've been chasing them weekly ever since, and it, I just it's the kind of situation where you went left and you should have went right. They were, 6 miles and not 20 miles. It was like I just kept missing them,
Yeah.
and like it is my goal. Like when I don't even want to publicly admit how much money I've spent on gas and how much time I've invested into trying to catch a ghost this fall. Um, it is just mind blowing, but it's something that I after hooking that fish, it's something that I just can't get out of my head, and it's something that I gotta make. I can't wait till next year to make it happen. I'm going to do everything I can to try to make it happen this year, but I'm kind of running out of time with it.
I still think you're going to get it done this week.
Yeah, I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so. Praying anyway. I just need a shot. I haven't even had a chance to swing like my last 8 times looking for them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, And I mean, it's the same thing like with, getting back to the striped bass. Um, like I'll say like one of the most important things is having a solid network of guys that you can trust and you can work with, and it's nothing to do with like burning spots or anything. I understand like about fishing from shore. Some people have their secret spots, but when you have like a network of guys that you trust and there's a constant feedback loop of where things are, um, where they were yesterday, it really helps you dial in, and that's really the secret sauce to catching a lot of fish during the fall run. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Um, is being able to stay on top of where they were yesterday, what direction they're heading, and it's one of the most important things. I know it has been for me for sure. There's a lot to be said for that, and it's something I think a lot of people they kind of overlook or don't really even think about.
Yeah. And a lot of people like to say, just put in your time. Well,
Yeah,
I think it's funny because I know a lot of people now in the fishing community. And I'll see them post on, somebody will say, I'm thinking about heading here. What do you guys think? Now, that's not really the best place to do it. Asking out in Facebook, where should I
Yeah.
go? That's not a network. That's a
No,
group.
it's not a network at all.
Yeah, and people are going to get on you for that. But what I think is funny is some of the guys will comment, just get out there and put in your time and find them. And I'm thinking, I just talked to you 2 days ago, and you told me that Jimmy's friend Ralph talked to Johnny, who
Yeah.
was talking to Linda's ex-boyfriend, and he told you this town, and that's why you're there.
Yeah,
So you didn't
exactly.
put in your time on the water for this one.
Yeah.
You put in your time networking, which
Yeah.
is the smart way to do it. It's the best way to do it.
It really is. And listen, I am a big proponent of putting in your time. There's no doubt about it. You have to put in your time. Everybody does. And I think things come way too easy for people anymore, especially with the internet and YouTube. And there's a lot of people that want to bypass that, but there's no shortcut to hard work. There really isn't.
Right.
Um, but I feel like having a healthy network is it's a little bit different than that. You're not like necessarily shortcutting the process, but it's actually helping you grow. Like for instance, like I have my striped bass network, and it's not some huge network of elites. It's really not. It's just some people that I have a lot of respect for. You know what I mean? And have a little bit of a group text going. And I don't have that same thing for tuna, and my
Right.
results have really showed with that. To be honest with you, I have maybe like one guy that I have a lot of respect for that I've been talking to this fall. Younger dude. Shout out to Thomas. Got a lot of respect for him. So, but yeah, I don't have that network, and my results have kind of shown that.
Yeah. Well,
So
and one of the big things is like I've said in the past that I've made this statement, time on the water doesn't matter. And that's true and it's not true. So let me explain that. There are certain things that you can do that you shouldn't shortcut. And that's like learning how to find the fish. What types of spots will they be in under specific situations, and weather factors, currents, tides, time of day, all of that stuff. You have to understand where the fish is going to be at a given time. So there's that part. You don't have to be on the water to know that on an outgoing tide on this moon with this wind direction in this area, these are the 30 spots you should look, right?
yeah,
But what you do need the network for, so if you just know that, you're going to be able to catch fish. But there's a big difference between being able to catch fish and going out and having an amazing day on the water, just like you've mentioned, catching 100 bass in a day.
yeah,
There, you can find a fish or a few fish in these 30 spots, but when you have a network, that's where you can now bounce ideas off of them, and they can say, okay, not only will they be in this type of spot, but it's not these 30 spots. It's actually only going to be 6 of the spots, because here's what I've noticed: they're not feeding below 30 feet anymore,
yeah,
or they've all pushed up shallow over the past week because the temperatures have gone down. So they're pushing up into the mud flats, those types of things. And it varies per species. So it's really a combination of the two. And then once you get the network, and then you get the understanding of the fish and the species that they're eating, and you can find those spots, then the biggest thing is going to be your time on the water, which is going to dial you in personally. That to me is where it clicks. And now I understand how all of it comes together and how I need to fish this area. And that's, once you get that, people throw out, I'm dialed in, I'm dialed in. You're only dialed in when that like little I envision it as a little click in your head where it's like, you know what, I understand where they're going to be in an hour. So I'm
yeah,
going to be there first. And then you're there when they show up.
yeah.
But it
And
takes a little.
it's funny that you say that you use that term dialed in, because I also think that that's a term that uh, isn't necessarily given to yourself, but it's a title that you kind of earn, and people will. Now he's dialed in. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's kind of like a earned term, somewhat, and um, I remember when I first started this, and I don't even know why I'm telling this story, but I remember when I first s- really threw myself into back like fishing and the backwater game, striped bass and everything. I remember like my whole goal was I just want somebody to say he's dialed in. And I don't know why that was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I just because I just threw my whole like heart and soul into the whole process. And I just that was like it was just something that I really wanted to earn.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's just a just dumb little story, but
But it's but
um
it's it takes a lot to get somebody to say that. There
yeah,
are a lot of people
yeah,
that
no doubt.
proclaim they're dialed in, but they're
Yeah.
not. You look at them,
Yeah.
you're like, you had a really good day,
Hmm.
but you didn't have a really good, week.
Yeah.
You had one great day and, dialed in is you're able to get, in my mind, when I see somebody and I say they're dialed in, it doesn't mean they're catching 1,000 fish.
No.
It means that they are able to get more than the average person in the conditions that were presented that day. So if and
Correct.
nobody can catch a fish, they're the ones getting one or two or three.
And I'll even go a step further. When you can go out and catch more than you don't catch, you're doing pretty good. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Because let's face it, like fishing is not it's not an easy thing. You're trying to get a wild animal to eat something that in a lot of times is fake and doesn't even look like their forage and get them to cooperate. It's not an easy thing to do. It's actually and like as far as guiding goes, it's like one of the most stressful parts about it is because like you can't always get a wild animal to cooperate like that.
right.
You know what I mean? But
Yep.
so but like even with backwater and sheep's head, and sometimes like you'll know the fish are there, and it's like, why aren't they eating?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just full, and sometimes they're just it's an off day. It could be a moon phase, but um it's I will say this, and just making a quick comparison between the two. It is nice, especially this time of year, that like especially fishing the ocean fronts, that like tides don't run my life and dictate everything that I do like it does with backwater fishing. It's nice to not have to worry about that as much. You know what
Right.
I mean? So there are certain factors that like the factors change between back bay and ocean fishing.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different game. I
It
personally
is.
love the run and gun of the ocean fishing.
Me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 1,000%. That's what's close to my heart. That's, uh, no matter how much gas I have to burn, no matter what I have to do, whether they're a quarter mile from the inlet or they're 30, it's like that is the type of fishing that I love. Now, it's funny, like, when I fish with my dad, he absolutely hates it. And
Yeah.
I know that I have a very small window of opportunity and time to be able to run out and find fish before he starts freaking out, like, "What are we gonna drive around all day?" You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, it's yeah, it's kind of funny. Some people don't like it, but it's something that, I don't know why. It's something that I vibe with, and I love every bit of it.
So I'll tell you the redfish trip that we took looking for
Yeah.
the bull reds down in southern Maryland. We went 135 miles that day. So you're
Oh
talking,
man.
I don't know how big the boat was, like 35, 36 feet,
Hmm.
something like that. It was full when they picked us up,
Yeah.
and we came back and it was like sputtering back in and it was all run and gun. And I'll tell you what, I was talking to George Bucci was on the trip, and
Yeah, I
he and
remember.
we got off there, and so did everybody else. We got off of there. We didn't catch a fish the entire day.
That
And the
sucks.
smiles, because we had the right crew. It was everybody
Mhm.
was like, "We're out here for that one shot, that one fish." Hopefully everyone gets that one shot during the day. But
Yeah.
man, and Tad is in the chat right now. Tad was there. It was, but man, you after the entire day, and we even stayed out late. The only reason we ran back in is because storms were coming up right behind us, and
Mhm.
he just hammered it and just gunned it across the Chesapeake. But that was one of the best trips I ever had. Never had a bite.
Never had a bite. Yep. And with that being said, the whole run and gun, because like I said, that's 100% of what I do and how I fish in the fall.
Yeah.
Um, there's some like and one of the other biggest pieces of advice that I can give is don't stop until you find what you're looking for. Don't waste time. There's mornings when I'm not kidding, I don't make a cast for 2 hours because I haven't found what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And it sucks, and I hate having to do that, and, you really start to sweat it, but I spent so much like, in figuring out that whole game, I spent so much time fishing where, and spending time on a spot or an area or whatever that was just mediocre, and I knew that in your gut, it's not gonna happen, it's a waste of time, um, and, uh, I will say this, you will know it when you find it, like, there's no mistaking it, and,
Yeah.
it's yeah, so that is again one of my biggest pieces of advice is don't settle for mediocre. Like yeah, some days are rougher and you're not going to find as much life as others, but man, don't stop and don't settle. You know,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So let's go through a review of your season. I'll say so far because it's just continuing.
yeah,
If the weather were cooperative today and you didn't have 7 to 9 foot seas across essentially the entire mid Atlantic, people would have caught a lot of fish today.
yeah.
So what has been working the best for you so far this season?
So obviously, again, we're going with the whole run and gun theme. So that's what it's been. It's been literally covering water, zigzagging in and out between usually I would say like 1 mile off to about a little over 2 miles off, literally zigzagging that line. Because once you get into about a mile, you can see if there's something on the beach. Once you get out to about 2, you can see if there's something like kind of on the line. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
zigzagging is a huge part of what I do. Also, constantly looking at your sounder. Now, unless I'm running over big pods of bunker, like my sounder on the Ralo will pick up a blip on the sonar. Uh, but you're just looking for those visual cues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're looking for the birds, you're looking for the splashes, and really zigzagging until you find what you're looking for. So, I mean, once I find what I'm looking for, and I'll say ever since like mid November-ish. Wait, where even are we? I don't even, maybe like early-ish. A lot of it in blitz fishing. You know what I mean? So a lot of what I'm throwing is top water plugs, pencil poppers, the big spooks like the big walking plugs like your docks will work really really well. That is some like imperative pieces of that you need to have in your gear because I'll say this and especially uh, certain times of the year and bass will start putting on like this certain it's a behavior that it's hard to explain unless you've seen it and the only way I can explain it is like a porpoising type behavior where they're coming up and they're just kind of rolling almost like a porpoise. They're
Yeah.
not splashing, they're not popping, they're just coming up and just rolling over on the surface.
Yep.
Typically they're on very very tiny bait like a lot of it's like a hake bait like a hake feed. Now if you throw a jig at them they're not going to eat it because it doesn't look anything like what they're keyed in on. And let me tell you, it's the most frustrating thing you'll come across. However, they will eat a giant topwater plug in that situation.
Yeah.
So having those topwater plugs like with you, like that's extremely important. Um, and really, like a big dock, like I can give like a big 9 inch dock to a novice and very quickly it's not too hard to get them to start catching fish on it, especially when that bite is there. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So don't if you've never used them, don't be afraid of them or don't be intimidated. It's a technique that really works, and even if those fish are deeper, something with a big rattle knocking across the surface like that, that's going to bring fish up. It really does. You will be surprised that you could be in 60 foot of water, working a topwater plug with a big giant rattle in it, knocking across the surface. and it brings fish up. It really does.
Yeah, even tuna.
Yeah. Ugh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll bring the tuna right up.
Yeah.
You made a really good point there about, they won't eat those jigs
Hmm.
if they're on those smaller baits,
Yeah.
quite often. It's
It is
similar.
frustrating.
Yeah, it's similar to the bass during the cinder worm hatches. They
Yeah.
get so keyed in, but it's like what you need to do when you're in an area that just has way too much bunker, right?
Hmm.
You need to do something to stand out, and
Yeah.
something else
Something
that's the same
different.
size as a bunker is not going to stand out. Now you can try to make it stand out with the action or some colors or some rattles, but if you change the size and change the action and put a rattle on it, now it becomes noticed, and even if they're not feeding on it, it's going to piss them off, right?
Yes.
So you
Exactly.
have that shot at that reaction bite, and when one gets going, you're going to get multiple keying in on that. But I
Yep.
have seen that weird behavior. It's like they're just rolling right underneath the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, they're just coming up and just kinda, like, rolling over. You don't
Yeah.
like, again, you don't hear a pop, you don't hear anything. They're just coming up and just, like, rolling. It's almost exact the only way I can describe it is porpoising. So,
Yeah.
uh,
You can see
but
it at night. If
yeah.
you fish bridges sometimes in the late fall, and there's a school in there, you will sometimes see them kind of swirling from the lights on the bridge. That's the only way that you would know they were there. You just see just kind of the colors flashing all over, and it's
Yeah.
them rolling over.
Yep, yep, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense why they would hit a 9-inch topwater plug when they're keyed in on small baits. I don't know. I can't make sense of it either, but it works. Or even
Right.
like a giant metal lip sometimes uh they'll eat in those circumstances. And again, I think a rattle has a lot to do with it. Like I threw like a lot of custom plugs this year, and I really I kind of I did a deep dive on custom plugs this year. I kind of went nuts buying stuff and trying different things, and it was a whole lot of fun. But I will say the stuff that has rattles absolutely makes a huge difference.
So are
You
you
know,
looking at the high pitch rattles or more of the knockers?
I love a deep knock. I
Yeah.
really do. But any type of rattle will do, and it's very hard to find like a custom plug maker that puts rattles in a wooden plug.
Yep.
It's hard to do. Personal best lures. Matt, he's a great dude. He's one of the very few that I know is doing that. Um, and that is one of my. I can't reach into my bucket now and pull it out without getting hooked on a bunch
Yeah.
of things.
Don't
I
get
wish
hooked.
I could, but it's on my Instagram. It's a big giant orange plug, orange and red one. That's been one of my favorites this year. It's like an 8-inch rattle pencil, and that thing's got a rattle in it, and it definitely has worked very, very, very well.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I used to think colors didn't matter, um, but like, especially with topwater and stuff like that. But I have plugs that I tried this year, and it's a beautiful color. And I'm not gonna bring it out because I don't want to like throw it under the bus or anything.
All right.
But I can't get this plug bit for the life of me. I could cast it into a blitz and it doesn't get bit. Where I know that my white one will get bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you definitely got to play around with that. And to me, I'm not like a huge color guy. I'm really not. I don't think anything works as well as white does. I really don't. I think white and like
No.
I'll say a rosy pearl white. They're my favorites as far as top watercolors go. They really are. All colors, really. But
Yeah, I'm a fan of all the whites and all the blacks. Or the
yes,
blacks
yeah, I
meaning
totally
darks, like
agree.
dark purples,
Mhm.
really dark blues. Those work awesome. And what's funny is a lot of people say, "Yeah, you fish the dark ones at night." When you also fish it when the water's dirty.
Yeah,
Like when it's a bright sunny day and the water is like a light chocolate milk, put a dark color in there. Don't put white. White washes out.
yeah.
Put a dark one right in the middle of
It
the day and
It
fish
throws
that,
a
and
big
that'll stand out.
shadow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anyone's seen any video clips, like, and this is a totally different game, but trolling for tuna and big game fish. A lot of times they will troll like it's basically like a mud flap teaser, and it's just a silhouette of like say a little tuna or bait fish.
Hmm.
And when you look at them from underneath, like an underneath view, you're like, no wonder why black works so well. Because it's the shadow and the silhouette that it throws off is almost better than anything else.
It's very
And
clear. It
yep, and
doesn't it doesn't wash into the background.
no, it doesn't, and it doesn't make like a lot of sense, especially for nighttime, but it absolutely works.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of dark golds, especially at nighttime. One of my all-time favorite lures, especially for jigging, like deeper jigging at night, was the dart spin, the 5.5 inch and wild shiner. That's like
Yeah.
a dark root beer with gold sparkle. Man, that is just an absolute killer of a lure, especially
Yeah.
for night.
You know, one of the big arguments for the blacks, like pure black at night, if you were going to go out and it's common in movies, the criminals wear black.
Yeah,
Well,
so do I constantly.
yeah,
That's
me
all I
too.
own is black
Me,
clothes,
but
all blacked out.
black is easy to pick out at night.
Yeah,
It's the almost blacks that blend because
right.
nothing is purely black,
Hmm.
in nature. So those give you the nice crisp silhouette when you're out there. All right, so you're using a lot of top waters.
Yes.
If you're throwing subsurface, what are you throwing first?
So,
Offshore,
uh, okay, so say that one more time, like out front?
out front, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I hate to even plug this, but, of course, the NLBNs, they work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just a company that has, like, really blown up in it's the cool thing to throw, I'll say,
All right,
you
I'll
know?
throw the almost as cool Al Gags whippets.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
there
very
you go.
similar.
There you go.
Yep.
That, hang on, I'll just show it because I have it here. Dart spin, man. I'm telling you, these catch everything. And this is, I believe that's the 7-inch one.
Yeah.
And the good thing about these is you don't destroy them. Like I can't tell you how many fish this thing has caught, and there isn't even any lip marks on the thing.
Yeah.
I mean that this I used it probably on 4 different guided trips. I mean, that this particular dart spin could have well over 100 fish on it, and it's just, you know, just
Want to
gotta
hear
use a
something
little
funny?
bit of super glue to glue the jig heads on. Um, that's really the only thing. But they work amazing, and again, I know Ed doesn't like them. He'll
He can't catch anything on him. Never
yeah,
caught
but
anything on
they
a dart
work. I
spin.
mean, and I'm telling you, even on the fall, like
Yeah.
dropping through the water column, these things catch fish. That tail is always spinning. It's always working for you. You could give this lure to a novice and they can't mess it up.
Just not
I'm
Ed.
serious. Really,
Yeah.
really, it's that good.
I love dart spins.
Yeah,
I use them all the time. I've caught a lot of fish on dart spins,
yep,
and when nothing seems to be working, I go to the dart spin
yeah.
because I figure that's what's going to get it going. You
Yep.
know.
Yeah, it's very easy. But I'm not a guy that had like aside from like top water plugs and like special plugs, I don't have a ton of jigging stuff like in my arsenal. So
Hmm.
it's basically um the dart spins, the NLBNs, like you gotta have like the 9-inch one. In fact, this is the one that I hooked the tuna on, believe it or
Oh,
not.
really?
You can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The hook's all crazy bent. Look how bent that hook is. It's crazy. But yeah, those the 5-inch ones of those work really well. Um, man, anything white, you got to have white in the arsenal. Of course, get yourself a packet of storm shads or any of the shads in bunker flavor as well, and you can really go out and do all the damage in the world with just those few things.
Yeah. You can certainly go out striped bass. I mean, as long as you have some top waters, you have a couple of soft plastics and a couple of
Yep.
sizes. And at this time of the year, I'm recommending to people that you go 7-inch plus.
Yes,
You have
definitely.
something
Yep.
smaller, but I wouldn't expect to toss it
Yeah.
out there at all. But 7-inch plus, all the way up to 12-inch, and maybe even bigger. I've talked to people that have what was it, Sean Kimbrough down in the Chesapeake. Scotty, you like this story? They would go out there and they'd start off with like 12-inch long soft plastics, and they
I
were
believe it.
continually trying to upsize the fish. So what they do is they cut the tail off of one and they glue it onto the tail. So now
Oh,
now it becomes a 15-inch, and then and
holy
then an
mackerel.
18-inch, then a 20-inch, and they're throwing out these like daisy chain soft plastics,
No
trying to
kidding.
yeah, and it works. They just keep upsizing the fish that way.
Because they're trying to attract the bigger fish, I'm
Yep,
assuming.
and get rid
Yeah,
of the smaller fish.
yeah,
So they're looking for the 50+ inch fish.
yeah. Very
There's
cool.
if there's 40 inchers around, well, it's great. We just caught the 40. Where's that 42? Where's that
Yeah.
45? And they
Yep.
keep going that way.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's very interesting. I actually had never heard that before.
yeah, and I think it's funny, with when I was working with Salt Strong, their big thing down there is they have like up to 5 inch.
Yeah.
Like 5 inch. If the fluke up here don't even look at 5 inch for half of the season.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world. It's a whole
So
different world.
yeah, it is. And I'll say like the only caveat to that is uh definitely I agree with you for like ocean fishing. But if we're talking back bay, I very rarely go over something of a certain size and profile. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Um yeah, it's
No,
like
I'm
I
talking out front. I'm
yeah,
talking
but
out
out
front.
front, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
1000%, I totally agree with you.
My tackle box for striped bass in the back starts with a 3.5 inch. I think that's
Mhm.
the smallest dart spin. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yes. So I have the 3.5 inch dart spins, then I have 4 inch soft plastic, 5 inch, and then I have 7 inch, but I very rarely use the 7 inch.
Yeah.
And the 7 inches that I use are they're actually what are they? The gulp, whatever. There's some weird kind of gulp that I
Okay.
use. And otherwise I'm going small. And I've caught 45-inch bass in the back on these 4 inch baits.
It's amazing how it works, right?
Yeah, but they wouldn't bite it out front. There's no way.
No. No, not at all. Yeah, it's, two completely different games. Yeah, I very rarely for me, like the 5.5 inch dart spin, like that's the biggest I'll ever go in the back, and that's only in certain circumstances. But the
Yeah.
majority of what I'm throwing is that 4.5 inch profile. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
So last year went out with Frank Mahalik on a tog trip. Uh Jerry Pastorino's boats. We're out on the fishmonger.
you got. I always wanted to fish with Jerry. He's a
It's
legend.
it's interesting.
Yeah,
You can just sit back and watch,
yeah,
and you can learn a lot just by keeping your mouth shut and watching. But we went out on opening day tog, and it was like this year. The bass were going crazy, and it was a slow tog bite. We're getting some fish, and Jerry's like, "You guys want to take a break and run in and catch some bass?" We're like, "Yep." We went in, and it was like I realistically and honestly, no exaggeration, probably every other cast. You never made 3 casts without hooking up into a really
yeah.
nice striped bass.
It's
And
amazing, right?
yeah, so I decided to test a lure that was 4 inches. So I put the 4 inch on there. I went 5 casts in a row without a touch.
Yeah.
Switched back up to the Al Gags, and it was like lights out again.
There you go.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's amazing, and during the fall, you always ever. I think it's pretty much common knowledge that like a lot those bigger fish always move through first. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you want your best shot at a 40 or a 50-pound bass, you got to be fishing like that first wave that comes through. Now we had those fish stay around. I did, and that's no lie, probably the entire month of October. It was amazing for that this year. And then the fish progressively get smaller and smaller. Like now, like there's still good fish to be had. Don't get me wrong. But the majority of the fish are going to be in that I would say slot range. Like the 28 to 35-inch range,
yeah,
somewhere around there. And you can, but even still, to me, I'm a South Jersey guy. So are you, and most of our listeners are. 35-inch bass is a big bass to us
yep,
South Jersey guys. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So, uh, I'm still like even now like I'm happy as hell catching 35-inch fish. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, I
So
think a 28 fights a lot better than a 38. That's
Um,
just the way I look at it.
yeah, well, it depends. They're a little more zoomy, but
Yeah,
those
that's what I mean.
38s really dig hard.
Well, they dig hard, but they also they don't take off and go crazy, you know?
Yeah,
They don't get they get angry, they don't get pissed off.
yeah.
They don't get as violent.
Dude, oh man, some of the big fish this year, they they were just absolute warriors, man, just
Yeah.
warriors. Like the way that they just had like one of my rods just like folded to the gunnel, and they just didn't stop digging and fighting until like they hit the net. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, there's
See,
nothing like
that's
the
what I'm looking for, you know, the
yeah,
size with that fight. The biggest one that I ever caught was in the spring, 14 feet of water next to a drop down to around 25 feet. And I hooked that thing and it didn't move.
yeah,
And then I kept setting. I was like, this is big. And I know it's not a snag. So I kept setting just to make sure I rammed that hook all the way in. And then it moved. And it maybe went 10 yards and sat. It was
yeah.
just like it was like pulling up a sumo wrestler.
Hmm.
It just it didn't dig and run. It would dig, you know, the 2 feet I got it off the bottom, it would just go down 2 feet and sit again.
Yes, they do that.
And I
Yep.
was like, come on, man. I thought I was going to break the rod trying to pull it up because it just wouldn't move. And then
Yeah.
finally, what I was able to do is I moved the kayak. So I was kind of I turned it so that it was now not facing into the current, but facing down current. And then it started moving. And as it started moving, I'm above it and reeling, and it just very slowly started to come up. And then it would run, but it would still just run straight down and stop.
Yep. They
Now,
want to
if that
sit
was
on
a
the
28
bottom.
incher, if that was a 28 incher, it would have gone 60 yards out to the right,
Absolutely.
45 yards back to the left, and then come in.
Yep, you are right about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're real zoomy. They zoom all over the place.
Yeah.
And
They
like
spend all the energy.
you kind of brought it reminds me of another important topic, like the having the proper tackle and the proper gear and rods for the fall is of utmost importance too. Now, not everybody needs to go out and have $1,000 Van Stall and like a $800 Century or anything, but having like a capable rod, you know, and a really nice reel makes a huge difference. It really
Yeah.
does, especially with the big fish. Um, I just kind of I was never like a custom rod guy or an expensive gear guy. Just because I'm a boat guy and everything else costs so much money, I couldn't swing like having nice stuff. But I ventured into like the custom rod world this year, and man, I don't know where I would be without my custom rods this year that I had specifically built for tackling a fall run. Like I
Yeah.
have a heavier one that was built by Crazy Face Customs. I don't know where I would have been on those big fish this year without that rod. And then I have my lighter one built by House of Rods, rated to about 2 ounces, and that's been really fun for the top water and getting into like that smaller class of fish that I have right now. But
Yeah.
highly recommend, and not even if you go out and get a custom rod, but really start paying attention to the specs and what the equipment's spec'd out to. Um, like the retrieve ratios and gearing ratios on the reels makes a big difference and makes your life a whole lot easier when you tie into that 40 or 50 pound fish. Really
Yeah.
does.
There's one stat that I think is the most overrated and worthless stat in existence today. I'm
We're
just going to
probably
say
going
it.
to think
Well,
the
I
same.
don't even know if it's a stat, but the comment you always hear, you can't break it. The rod won't break. I don't care what you do to it, the rod won't break. That doesn't matter. That does
Give it to
not
me.
make it
I'll
a good rod.
snap it. I
Yeah.
break everything.
You know, you hear
Yeah.
that with the ugly sticks. I've been
Yeah.
using this for 30 years. It's never broken. Yeah, but it's also never fought a fish well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you
No, it
got
does.
used to it, but it doesn't fight the fish the way you
Yeah.
should. And it becomes important when you look at species like well, God, it's almost every species now. People want to go light, right? And light is fine, but if you go too light, and that means you have a half an hour to bring in one fish, you've killed the fish.
Exactly. And
You
I'll
know?
say that was me for the longest time.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want light tackle everything as light as possible. But man, it gets to a point where like, and maybe it's because I've gotten older. I just want to be comfortable. I want to be I want to fight a fish on something that's comfortable, and I don't want to be undergunned because you will eventually get totally overwhelmed by something and wish you had bigger stuff. Now, I'm not saying go out and get an 18,000 class reel for striped bass, uh,
Right.
but you know what I mean. Uh, and I mean, grips on a rod, like start paying attention to those. Like go into a tackle or a local tackle shop and like get familiarized with a couple grips, see how you like things. Like I modeled a lot my custom builds off of. It's basically a boat version of a surf fishing rod. And I really like a nice fat like foam upper foregrip. It makes a huge difference for fighting big fish. But
Right.
my butt section it looks exactly like a surf rod. Um, and I have found that like, and I spent the majority of my fishing career like afraid of a longer rod for some reason. I don't know what it was. Um, and I finally I got over that. Especially like when you're chunking a lot of topwater stuff. Like I've really fallen in love with the 8 foot range,
Yep.
8 foot rods, and both of my custom rods are 8 foot. And man, you have the distance to reach out and really get that plug away from the boat or that jig away from the boat. Um, and you also have a lot of flex and a lot of power. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'll say this: stiff rods lose fish. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't like something with a real stiff action, and in fact, I don't even like a fast action. I like a moderate to slower action, something with a really nice parabolic bend to it, and it takes a lot of like it takes more stress off the angler as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
I prefer the moderate to moderate fast.
mhm.
Um, yeah, but again, it depends on what species you're going for. I mean,
Yeah,
it changes, and I would just add to your point about the custom rods. Whenever you're getting a rod, just make sure you get it for what it is. It's a tool for catching the fish.
correct.
Jeremy Wade was the one that really kind of pioneered he refused to go. You always see him in the river monsters and everything. He's always
Love Jeremy Wade.
overgeared, right?
Yeah,
He's and he took it a step beyond where I'm willing to take it. He would not put a line in the water unless he was sure he could land whatever was in that water that might bite it, because he
hmm,
didn't think it was fair to hook something and then have it spool
yeah, like
him.
I
Okay.
did.
Yeah. Well, I've done it too, and it's fun.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
I'm not that guy. And I'm not going to get mad at somebody, uh, but he wouldn't do it, right? That's why he always had those big, huge casting rods with these huge, oversized pen reels on them and whatever it was. But keep in mind when you're looking for a rod, there are certain things that it's a tool. It has to work for you. If you're
hmm.
getting a split grip and you're in a boat, you should really think about that and
I
really
hate split grips.
you put a split grip in a rod holder and then you hook a fish on there. You very well might snap that rod.
Yeah, exactly. And that blank gets rashed to hell if after being in a rod holder. Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah, I really dislike split grips, but it's just me.
I see. I do like split grips, but there are
Mhm.
certain things you can't do with them, or you
Yeah,
shouldn't do with them. All it takes is one cut across that blank,
yeah,
and it's compromised, right? And putting
correct.
it in a rod holder and having it whip around when the boat's going up and down and banging on the metal, it's probably not a good idea. But it's things like that. Keep that stuff in mind. Your grips, as you mentioned, don't have to match. You can have a really
Yeah,
skinny bottom all the way down to the butt, and a really thick foregrip
yeah.
if that's the type of fish that you're going for. So
Hmm. Yeah, I just saw Nick said he's really fallen in love with the 7.6, especially for tog and for bass. Yeah, 7.6 is a great rod. And like to me, like when it comes to like especially fall run bassing, um, like, and it's just me and it's everybody's personal preference, but I think that 7.6 point, that's where you should really start looking first. Like you can get away with 7 foot for doing different things, but it's way too narrow of a capability. I think
yeah,
that 7.6 range is really a sweet spot. 8 foot might be a little long for some people, but like I just happen to love it. But don't be afraid to get into some of these longer rods here. Now I'm not saying go 9 foot for the boat or anything, because that can get a little cumbersome. But yeah, don't be afraid to jump up from that 7 foot, 7'6", 8 foot even. It makes a world of difference. It really does.
Yeah, and it all depends on how accurate you want to be and how good you are at casting,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes
Yeah.
when you're out in the middle of the, if you have an 8.6, it might be really difficult for you to hit that spot as compared to the 7.6,
Yeah.
right? So, but you're going to sacrifice some distance quite often, and all other things being the same. So you
Yeah.
really have to know yourself. Are you an accurate caster? And if so, you should be able to adjust over time to almost any length of rod. Now, the difference between a 7 foot and a 10 foot is big,
Yeah.
but
Huge.
if you're a naturally good, accurate caster, you should be fine with that. But most people, especially in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, where you don't have to pitch under docks, you don't have to hit, little tiny things. For most of your fishing, we're not all that accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take
You
take
don't,
nine out of
especially
10
for
guys.
ocean fishing. You really don't
Right.
have to be. I mean, main goal is chunk that thing as far away from the boat as you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're fishing back in the flats or something,
Yeah.
you get 10 guys that fish Florida in the flats and put them up against 10 guys up here in the Northeast. You're probably going to have 9 of those Florida guys more accurate than you are.
Oh, I totally agree with you. But you actually even bring up a really good point as far as like flats fishing. Um, but the further away you can be from the spot you're fishing and still be able to reach it, the better. So
Yeah.
again, like even for backwater fishing, like don't be afraid to go like a 7.6 barrel. You know what I mean? A little bit longer.
That's my
And
standard 7.4s and
yeah,
7.6s. Yep.
yeah. I've been again like, and I've been fishing 7 foot for entirely too long. Like I started on 6.6s and I was hell bent on never going above 6.6.
Yep.
And just once I broke that mentality, like I had a lot of aha moments, and I started realizing how useful of a tool longer rods can be. In fact, I'm actually going to have a 7.6 rod built for this coming year. So
It's
actually,
a
Ed's going to build me one.
very nice. I got to get
Yeah,
Ed to build me one too.
yeah,
He's going to want something in return, though, so I'm going to have to
yeah.
give him like
We're
a
we're we're
rack.
gonna we're gonna do a funny one, man. I went over to hang out in his shop, and we spent like a couple hours one night, like specking it all out and picking it all out. I'm excited for that.
Nice. Nice. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. Well, we've been on for a while. We've been on
Really?
for about an hour. Yeah. So we're gonna
Oh,
have
no,
to.
see that's how much I love being on here. The time just kind of flies by. It's like,
Yeah, and for those that are unaware, Scotty's going to be on a lot as we go forward. So
yeah,
it's we just kind of vibe really well together, the
yes,
three
we
of
do.
us. So
Yeah,
I mean, we may as well talk fishing together, and the people that are watching and listen to the podcast really love the episodes that you're on. So
yeah. I love being here, and I just want to take a minute, especially to thank you guys, and also to thank everybody out there. Um, because I remember a time in my life when nobody cared about anything I had to say or anything. So the fact that that there's people out there that like enjoy listening to me and respect what I have to say, that sincerely means a lot to me, and I want you all to know it does. And thank you very much for
yeah, I feel the same way,
that. Hmm.
and still 99% of people don't care what I say. But
Yeah,
I'm the facilitator here. I'm the connector. I find
yeah.
people like you and then
You're great
put
at
you
what
in
you do,
front.
Rich. You
So
are.
yeah, so we'll be back. Scotty will be back. Scotty is going on the trip
Dog
on
trip,
the
and
20th.
I just got my my ticket today.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I can't wait to meet people. That's the
yeah,
one thing. I'll just say this, kind of in line with what you were saying. One thing that's really difficult from the position that I'm in with this channel and with the podcast and everything is I get to connect a lot of people. Like a lot of people connect in the chat,
yeah,
right?
me
And a
too.
lot of people connect outside and not necessarily through me. And I get to see that all the time. And I very, very rarely get to participate in that.
Hmm.
So that's why I am so looking forward to this trip, because I haven't met a lot of these guys,
Yeah,
even though I've talked to them or texted. I've never gotten to fish with them. There are people that fish, every week, that met through this channel, and I've never fished with any of them.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that you were able to make it work in your
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah, same. I'm super excited about it because I don't like I feel like I spend so much time like alone that like I don't often get to go out and do stuff like this and meet other people and fish with other people. So again, same thing with me. It's kind of like a rare occurrence. So I am really looking forward to this. And I'm looking forward to not having to drive the boat. Oh my God, you have
Yeah.
no idea. And just be able to pull up to the dock and get off the boat.
Yeah, I don't think JP will let you drive it anyway. It's his new
No.
baby this year. It's
Yeah.
his new boat.
Yeah. Oh, it's a new one.
It's new to him. Yes, they
Okay,
just
awesome.
overhauled it. Yeah, they upsized this year.
Good deal.
Um,
I was on the older one then. Yeah, I was
yeah,
on the Osprey once before.
yeah, it's a good boat. I love that boat. It's one of the few that I will recommend. I've never had a bad experience on it. I've had tough
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
but it's the
No,
kind of boat. It's a tough day,
they
and you
make it
can
fun.
see it on the captain's face that he's
Yep.
been working his butt off. You've been moving. He's been doing everything he can. He's talking to you, and then there's other boats where you just sit for 4 hours. You're like, why aren't we moving?
Yeah.
We literally spent
Or
4 hours here with nothing.
yeah, I remember the last because I was only ever on it once. And it was a really tough day, but we got to feed his dog green crabs.
Yeah,
I don't know if he still has the same
no, no,
dog, but
it
that I never seen a living, breathing like animal or person pound green crabs like this dog did. Oh
and
my
he
God.
doesn't like spiny dogfish either.
No.
The dog will if a dogfish comes over the rail, he wants it.
Yeah.
He'll
Yeah.
just pick that thing up and run away with it. You got to chase
Mhm.
him down to throw it back
Slapping
overboard.
him with the spine.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
No.
No. So, all right, guys. Well, everybody, hopefully you can get in on that trip. It's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. Scotty will be there. Kevin O'Shea just posted. He'll be there. Don Mace will be there. There's going to be so many people there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to on the 20th, Osprey Fishing, Osprey, New Jersey, Osprey Fishing, New Jersey, one of those two. I think it's ospreyfishingnewjersey.com. Get on there and register. Hopefully we have some good weather. And Ed and I will be back on Monday with the next episode. So until then, everybody get out there, get on the water, get some tight lines.